The space station was dying. Red lights flashed again and again. Loud sirens screamed through the metal halls. Smoke filled the air, and people ran in every direction. Some were crying, some were shouting, and some just stood frozen in fear outside. The giant glass windows, the stars were hidden behind fire and explosions. Enemy ships surrounded the station like hunters closing in on their prey. Inside, there was no hope left. Ethan Cole pushed himself forward through the crowd. His left arm was bleeding, and his uniform was torn, but he did not stop. He helped a fallen man stand up, then guided a woman toward the escape zone. Even now, when everything was ending, he refused to leave anyone behind. "Move! Keep moving!" he shouted, his voice tired but strong. The loudspeaker cracked above them. "Final escape pod launching in 2 minutes. This is your last chance." Those words hit everyone like a shock. Panic grew stronger. People started pushing harder. Fear turned them into something else. Ethan reached the escape bay at last. Only one pod remained. Small, damaged, but still working. The door was open, and a soldier stood beside it, blocking the crowd. "One seat left," the soldier shouted. "Only one." The crowd went silent for a second. Then chaos exploded again. Everyone wanted that last chance, that last breath of life. Ethan stepped forward slowly, his body heavy, his eyes tired. He knew he could take that seat. He had fought. He had survived. He had earned it. Then he heard something, a soft cry, not loud, not strong, but different. He turned his head. In the corner of the room, hidden behind broken metal and shadows, was a small alien girl. She was not like the others. Her skin had a faint blue glow. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her small hands were shaking. She looked lost, alone, and completely forgotten. No one else was looking at her. No one cared. "She's not human." Someone whispered, "Leave her." Ethan felt something break inside his chest. For a moment, the noise around him faded. The fear, the fire, the screams, everything became distant. All he saw was that child, and in her eyes, he saw something familiar. He saw his daughter. A memory hit him hard, laughter, small hands holding his finger. A voice calling him, "Dad," gone now, lost in the war. And Ethan closed his eyes for a second, then made his choice. He turned away from the pod. The soldier looked at him, confused. "What are you doing? That's your seat." Ethan didn't answer. He walked toward the alien girl instead, slow but steady. She tried to move back, afraid, but she was too weak. He knelt in front of her, ignoring the pain in his body. "It's okay," he said softly. She didn't understand his words, but she understood his voice. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She was light, fragile, like she could break at any moment. The crowd stared at him like he was crazy. "You're wasting the seat," someone shouted. Ethan didn't listen. He carried the girl to the escape pod. The soldier stepped forward. "You can't take her. She's not allowed." Ethan looked straight into his eyes, calm but firm. "She is now." For a moment, the soldier hesitated, then stepped aside. Time was running out. Ethan placed the girl inside the pod. She grabbed his arm suddenly, her small fingers tight, her eyes filled with fear. She didn't want to let go. He smiled gently, even with blood on his face. "You have to go," he whispered. She shook her head, small tears forming in her glowing eyes. Ethan gently removed her hand and closed the pod door. The system activated. Lights turned green. "Launch in 5 seconds, the computer voice said. The girl pressed her hand against the glass, looking at him. Ethan stood there, watching her. "Live," he said quietly. The pod launched, shooting out into space just as a massive explosion tore through the station behind him. The force threw Ethan to the ground, fire rising around him, metal breaking apart. The end had come, but far away. Moving through the darkness of space, the small escape pod carried a life he had chosen to save. And that choice would change everything. Galaxy moved on, but it never forgot the day the station fell. News spread fast across systems. The final human defense had been destroyed. The war was over, and humanity had lost. For most, it was just another victory. For others, it was the end of a species. Ethan Cole's name was never recorded. No statue, no story, no honor. He was just another life lost in the fire. But not everyone forgot. Far away, deep within the territory of an ancient alien race, a small escape pod drifted through space, damaged, silent, but still alive inside. The alien child sat alone, her small hands wrapped around her knees, her glowing eyes staring into the darkness. She had not spoken since the moment the human left her. Rescue ships found her hours later. Large silver vessels surrounded the pod and carefully brought it inside. Scanners checked her body. Voices spoke in a language she knew. "She is one of us," one voice said. "But weak," another replied. "She survived alone," a third added. "That is not weakness." The pod opened slowly. The girl did not move at first. Then she looked up, her eyes still searching, still hoping to see the human again. But he was not there. He would never be there. They took her home. Her world was nothing like the chaos she had escaped. It was calm, silent, and controlled. Tall, shining structures reached the sky, and everything felt cold. Distant, perfect, too perfect. She was given a name, Lyra, but even with a name she did not belong. The other children stayed away from her. They whispered about her. She was saved by a human. "She is different. She is weak," Lyra said. Nothing. She spent most of her time alone, sitting by the edge of the high towers, looking into the stars. Every night, she remembered the same moment. A human face, tired but kind. A voice she could not understand, but somehow felt in one word: live. Years passed slowly. Lyra grew. Her small body becoming stronger, taller, faster. But something inside her was not the same as the others. While they trained with discipline and logic, she trained with emotion. While they followed orders, she asked questions. While they looked down on weaker beings, she protected them. This made her different and dangerous. One day, during combat training, a larger student pushed a smaller one to the ground, laughing. "Weak," he said. Lyra stepped forward without thinking. "Stop," she said, her voice calm but firm. The larger student turned. Surprised, or what? Lyra did not answer. The next moment she moved fast, precise, stronger than anyone expected. In seconds, the larger student was on the ground, unable to move. The training hall fell silent. Even the instructors were shocked. "She should not have that level of strength," one of them whispered. Lyra stepped back, her breathing steady, her eyes cold but controlled. She did not feel proud. She only felt something else, a memory, a human standing in fire, choosing someone else over himself. From that day, everything changed. The elders began to watch her closely. "She is unstable," one said. "She is evolving," another replied. Lyra continued to grow stronger, faster than anyone in her generation. But her mind stayed focused on one thing: humans. She began searching old records, hidden data, forgotten war logs. Most of it said the same thing. Humans were defeated, humans were gone, humans were extinct. But Lyra did not believe it. One night, she accessed a restricted archive, something only High Command could see. Her hands moved quickly across the glowing interface. File after file opened. Then she found it. A hidden report. Survivors located. Her heart started beating faster. Images appeared on the screen: chains, camps, broken people working under alien guards, humans alive. Lyra's eyes widened. She moved closer, searching every face, every detail. Then she saw him, older, weaker, but still standing. Still helping someone beside him. Ethan Cole. He was alive. For a moment, Lyra could not move. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. The past was no longer a memory, it was real. She touched the screen gently, her fingers stopping on his image. "You lived," she whispered. Behind her, the door opened slightly, but she did not notice. Her focus was locked on one truth: the human who saved her was still out there, and this time, she would be the one to save him. The truth changed everything for Lyra. She did not see the stars the same way anymore. She did not train the same way, and she did not follow orders like before. Now she had a purpose. Ethan Cole was alive, and somewhere in the cold darkness of space he was suffering. Lyra stood alone on the highest platform of her world, the wind moving softly around her, her glowing eyes fixed on the endless sky. He waited for death, she whispered, but he lived. Behind her, heavy footsteps approached. You were not allowed to access that data, a deep voice said. Lyra did not turn. I needed the truth, she replied calmly. The elder stepped beside her, tall, powerful, his presence heavy with authority. And what will you do with it? He asked. Lyra finally looked at him, her expression steady. I will bring him back. The elder's eyes narrowed slightly. You speak of a human, he said. They are a finished species. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, she said. They are not finished. They were abandoned. Silence filled the space between them. The elder studied her carefully. You are changing, he said. Your emotions are growing stronger. That is not our way. Lyra's voice remained calm, but there was something deeper inside it now, something unbreakable. Maybe your way is wrong, she said. The elder stepped closer, his tone colder. If you continue this path, you will stand alone. Lyra did not hesitate. I have always been alone. The elder said nothing more. He turned and walked away, leaving her with the stars. But from that moment, Lyra knew something important. She could not ask for permission. She had to become strong enough to act. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Lyra trained harder than ever before, not just in combat, but in control, speed, strategy, and endurance. She pushed her body beyond its limits again and again. While others rested, she continued. While others followed rules, she broke them. Her movements became sharper, faster, more precise. Her mind became clearer, focused on one goal: find Ethan. During one advanced combat trial, the strongest warriors of her kind gathered in a massive arena. This was not training. This was a test of power. One by one, fighters entered the field, displaying their strength, their skill, their discipline. Lyra stood at the edge, silent, watching. They will never accept you, someone beside her said. Lyra did not respond. Her name was called. The arena became quiet. Some watched with curiosity, others with doubt. She is the human's shadow, one whispered. Lyra stepped forward into the center, her posture calm, her breathing steady. Her opponent was larger, older, and experienced. This will be quick, he said confidently. Lyra said nothing. Signal was given. In a flash, the fight began. Her opponent attacked first, fast and aggressive, but Lyra moved like light. She dodged every strike, every movement, her body flowing with perfect control. Then she struck, one move clean, precise, unstoppable. Her opponent fell to the ground instantly. Unable to continue, the arena fell silent. No one expected it to end. So fast, Lyra stood still, her eyes calm, her energy controlled. She did not celebrate. She simply walked away. From that day, no one called her weak again, but they feared her. And fear created distance. That night, Lyra returned to the hidden archive. She studied the prison location, security systems, guard rotations, everything she could find. The place where Ethan was held was far, deep inside enemy territory, surrounded by danger. A direct attack would fail. She needed another way, a quiet way, a careful way. As she closed the final data file, she looked once more at Ethan's image. He looked older now, tired, but still standing beside another human, helping him carry a heavy load. Even in chains, he was still the same, still choosing others. Lyra felt something rise inside her chest, not anger, not fear, something stronger. A promise. I am coming, she said softly, behind her. The system lights flickered. A warning signal appeared briefly, then disappeared. Someone had detected her access. Time was running out. Lyra stood up slowly, her decision clear. She could not stay any longer. She turned toward the exit, her steps calm but final. This was the beginning, the moment she stopped being just a survivor and became something more, a force moving through the galaxy, heading toward one man, the man who once saved her life, and now it was her turn. The journey began in silence. Lyra left her world without permission, without support, and without fear. Her ship was small, fast, and hidden from most scanners. It moved like a shadow through space, avoiding major routes and patrol zones. She sat alone in the pilot's seat, her eyes fixed on the star map. The prison world was far, deep inside enemy territory, a place where no one escaped, but Lyra was not thinking about escape. She was thinking about him, Ethan Cole, as the ship moved through the darkness. She replayed his image again and again in her mind, older, tired, but still standing, still helping others. Even in chains, he had not changed. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the fire, the noise. The last time she saw him, he had chosen her life over his own. Now it was her turn. Hours turned into days as she traveled. The stars became fewer, the space darker, colder, more dangerous. Enemy signals started to appear. Warships, patrol drones, scanning fields. Lyra adjusted her path carefully, avoiding every threat with perfect timing. She could not afford a mistake. Finally, the prison world appeared on her screen. A dark planet surrounded by metal structures and defense systems. Orbiting ships guarded it from every direction. It did not look like a prison. It looked like a cage for an entire species. Lyra slowed her ship, hiding behind a field of broken asteroids. She scanned the planet quietly. Massive walls, energy barriers, armed towers, and inside, thousands of life signs, humans. Her hands tightened slightly on the controls. "They are all still alive," she whispered. But survival was not freedom. She zoomed in further, accessing thermal readings and movement patterns. Workers moved in lines, guarded by armed soldiers, forced to carry heavy loads, build structures, and mine resources. No rest, no mercy. Then she found the section. Sector 7. Her heart slowed, her focus sharpened. The screen showed a group of humans working together, and among them Ethan. He looked thinner now, his movements slower, his body worn down by years of hard labor. But he was still there, still helping the others beside him. A man nearby stumbled and fell under the weight of metal. A guard raised his weapon, ready to strike, but Ethan stepped in, lifting the load himself, protecting the fallen man. The guard hesitated, then lowered his weapon slightly. Even here, Ethan was still choosing others. Lyra felt a deep pressure in her chest. Not pain, something stronger. Respect. She touched the screen again, her fingers resting over his image. "You did not break," she said quietly. "But they will." Her eyes shifted, scanning the defenses again. A direct attack was impossible. Even she could not fight an entire planet alone. She needed to go inside. Quietly, Lyra guided her ship toward a blind spot in the defense grid, a narrow gap between two scanning fields. The timing had to be perfect. 3 seconds too early, she would be detected. 3 seconds too late, the gap would close. She took a slow breath and moved. The ship slipped through the gap like a ghost, unseen, untouched. Inside the atmosphere, the sky turned dark red. Heavy clouds covering the surface. Lightning flashed in the distance, revealing massive industrial zones and endless prison blocks. Lyra landed far from the main area, hiding her ship among broken terrain and metal debris. The ground was cold, the air thick. She stepped out slowly, her eyes scanning everything. Every movement mattered now. She activated a cloaking field around her body, bending the light just enough to make her invisible from a distance. Then she moved, fast, silent, controlled. Guards passed by without noticing her. Machines scanned the area but detected nothing. She reached the outer wall of Sector 7, high, reinforced, covered with energy lines. But not perfect. Lyra studied it carefully, then found a weak point with one precise movement. She disabled the system for a few seconds, just enough. She slipped inside and stopped. The sound hit her first. Chains, metal, footsteps, low voices. Then she saw them, humans, working, struggling. Surviving. Lyra's eyes searched quickly, moving from one face to another. Then she found him again. Closer this time, real, not just a screen. Ethan was there, only a short distance away, carrying a heavy container with another man, his face tired, his body weak, but his spirit still unbroken. Lyra took a step forward, then stopped. For the first time she hesitated. What would he see when he looked at her? A stranger, or the child he once saved? Before she could move again, a loud alarm suddenly echoed across the sector. Red lights flashed, guards turned, weapons. Security breach detected, a voice announced. Lyra's eyes narrowed. They know, she whispered. Across the yard, Ethan looked up, confused. Their worlds were about to collide again. And this time, nothing would stop what was coming. The alarms screamed across the prison sector. Red lights flashed over the walls. Guards moved quickly, weapons ready, eyes searching for the threat. The quiet control of the prison was gone, replaced by tension and fear. Lyra stood still for a second, hidden in the shadows, her mind calculating every movement. They found something, she whispered, but not me. Not yet. She moved again, faster now, slipping between structures, staying close to the ground, avoiding direct sight. Her target was clear. Ethan, across the yard. Ethan looked around, confused like the others. What's happening? One prisoner asked beside him. Trouble, Ethan said quietly, his voice calm but alert. Years in the camp had taught him one thing. Alarms always meant pain. Stay close, he told the others, lifting a heavy container again, pretending to continue work, but his eyes kept moving, watching, waiting. Lyra reached the inner line of the yard, just a few steps away from him now. She stopped behind a broken metal pillar, her eyes fixed on his face. He looked older than before. More lines, more scars, but still the same person, still strong in the ways that mattered for a moment. Lyra felt something she had not felt in years. Nervous, she stepped forward slowly, dropping the cloaking field just enough to be seen. Ethan turned at that exact moment. Their eyes met. He froze. Lyra stood in front of him, silent, her glowing eyes steady, her posture calm. To him, she was just another alien, different from the guards, but still not familiar. Who are you? Ethan asked, his voice low, careful. Lyra said nothing at first. Instead, she reached into her hand and revealed a small object. A worn piece of metal, scratched, simple, the memory token he had given her long ago. Ethan's eyes widened slightly, his breath slowed. That's not possible, he said, almost to himself. Lyra took another step closer. It is, she said softly. The voice was different now, older, stronger, but something in it felt the same. Ethan looked into her eyes again, searching, and then he saw it, the fear that had once been there, now replaced by strength. The same child. You survived, he said quietly. Lyra nodded once. Because of you. For a brief moment, the noise around them disappeared. No guards, no alarms, no prison, just two lives crossing again. But the moment did not last. Over there, a guard shouted. Several soldiers rushed toward them, weapons raised. Lyra turned instantly, her body shifting into motion. Stay behind me, she said. Ethan did not argue. The first guard fired. A bright energy shot cut through the air. Lyra moved faster than the eye could follow, dodging the blast, closing the distance in a second. Her strike was clean and precise. The guard fell without a sound. The others opened fire, the yard filled with light and noise. Prisoners dropped to the ground, trying to avoid the chaos. Ethan pulled two of them down beside him, shielding them as best as he could. Lyra moved like a storm, every step controlled, every movement deadly. She disabled one guard after another, her strength far beyond anything they expected. Fall back. One of the soldiers shouted into his communicator, but it was too late. The fight had already turned. Within seconds, the guards in the yard were down. Smoke and silence filled the space. Lyra stood in the center, her breathing steady, her eyes scanning for more threats. Ethan slowly stood up, helping the others around him. He looked at her again, still trying to understand. "You came back," he said. Lyra turned to him. "I promised." She replied. A deep rumble shook the ground suddenly. Heavy footsteps echoed from the far gate. More guards, stronger ones, armored units entered the yard. Larger, slower, but far more dangerous. Their weapons powered up, glowing with energy. "This is not over," Ethan said, his voice tense. Lyra stepped forward, placing herself between him and the incoming threat. "No," she said calmly. "It's just beginning." The armored units raised their weapons together, aiming directly at her. For the first time, the air felt truly heavy. This was not a small fight anymore. This was war. Behind her, Ethan tightened his grip on a piece of broken metal, ready to fight even if he had no chance. Lyra did not look back. Her focus was forward, her power rising. The past had brought them together again, but the future would be decided here, in fire, in battle, and in the choice she was about to make. The ground shook under the heavy steps of the armored units. Each one was tall, covered in dark metal, their glowing weapons aimed forward, their presence cold and unstoppable. The air became thick with tension. Prisoners stayed low, hiding behind anything they could find. Fear clear on every face. Ethan stood behind Lyra, holding a broken metal rod, knowing it would not be enough, but still ready to fight. Lyra did not move back. She stood firm, her eyes locked on the enemy, her body calm, but power rising inside. "You should go," Ethan said quietly. "Save yourself." Lyra shook her head once. "I didn't come here to leave," she replied. The armored leader stepped forward, his voice deep and mechanical. "Unknown entity, stand down," he said. "You are outnumbered." Lyra said nothing. Her silence was her answer. The leader raised his weapon slightly. "Then you will be removed." The moment broke. The battle began. Energy blasts filled the air, bright and deadly, shaking the ground with every impact. Lyra moved instantly, faster than before, dodging the first wave, closing the distance between her and the nearest unit. She struck with full force, her power crashing into the metal armor, cracking it open. The unit staggered, then fell. But the others did not stop. They surrounded her, firing from all sides, forcing her to move constantly. Each step, each motion was perfect, but there were too many behind her. Ethan pulled 2 prisoners to safety, pushing them behind cover. "Stay down," he told them. A blast hit close to him, throwing him back. He hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his body. Still, he forced himself up again. He could not stop, not now. Lyra saw him fall, just for a second, and in that second, something inside her shifted. Her control began to break. Her power surged, stronger, faster, more dangerous. The air around her changed, energy moving like a storm. The armored units paused for a moment, sensing the difference. "What is she?" one of them said. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter than before. This time she did not hold back. She moved through them like a force of nature, striking harder, faster, destroying armor, breaking weapons, sending units crashing to the ground. Nothing could stop her now. The battlefield turned silent, except for the sound of metal breaking and energy fading. Within moments, the armored units were down. Smoke filled the yard again. Lyra stood in the center, her power still rising, uncontrolled. Ethan looked at her, concern in his eyes. "Lyra," he said carefully. She did not respond. Her focus had changed. Her anger, her pain, her years of silence. Everything was coming out at once. "This place," she said slowly. "This system. All of it." Her voice was no longer calm. "It ends now." High above, a massive shadow moved across the sky. A command ship entered orbit, larger than anything below. A voice echoed across the prison, loud and clear. "Stop." Lyra looked up, her eyes narrowing. A figure appeared on the main platform. projected across the entire yard. The enemy commander, tall, calm, watching everything. "You are stronger than expected," he said. "But you do not understand what you are fighting, Lyra." Step forward, her energy still building. "I understand enough," she replied. The commander tilted his head slightly. "Humans were never the target," he said. Ethan looked up. "Confused, what?" he whispered. Lyra's expression changed slightly. The commander continued. "They carry something rare," he said. "Something hidden, something powerful." He paused, then added potential. The word echoed across the yard. "They adapt, they survive, they grow beyond limits," he said. "That makes them dangerous." Lyra's hands tightened. "So you enslaved them," she said. "So we contained them," the commander corrected. Ethan slowly stood again, his voice tired but strong. "They are people," he said. The commander looked at him, almost with interest. "Yes," he said, "and that is why they must be controlled." Lyra stepped forward again, her power reaching its peak. "No," she said. The ground cracked beneath her feet, energy spreading outward. "This ends now." The commander's expression did not change. "Then you will destroy them with us," he said calmly. Lyra stopped. For the first time she hesitated. Her power was too great now. If she released it fully, everything would be gone. The prison, the guards, the systems, and the humans. Ethan saw it in her eyes. The choice. He stepped forward, ignoring the danger. "Lyra," he said. She turned slightly, her glowing eyes meeting his. "You don't have to become this," he said. His voice was weak but clear. "You saved me already." The energy around her trembled. Two paths stood in front of her. Destroy everything, or save what was left. The storm inside her grew louder, and the decision would change everything. The entire prison world felt frozen. The sky above was dark, the command ship still hovering like a silent shadow, and the battlefield below was covered in smoke, broken metal, and silence. Lyra stood in the center of it all, her body glowing with unstable energy, power rising and falling like a storm inside her. Her eyes were fixed on the commander's projection, but her mind was somewhere else. Ethan's words kept repeating in her head. "You don't have to become this." For the first time in years, Lyra felt something stronger than anger, stronger than purpose. Confusion behind her. Ethan stood still, watching her carefully, breathing heavily, waiting for her choice. The commander's voice echoed again, calm and cold. "Raise your power," he said, "and end this suffering, or stop and watch them remain in chains." Lyra's hands trembled slightly, energy swirling around her like wind trapped in fire. Everything inside her was breaking into two paths. Destroy everything, or save everything. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she was no longer here. She was back on the escape pod, a small child pressing her hand against glass, watching a human stay behind. A human who smiled even as the world ended. A human who chose her life over his own. Her eyes opened again. The storm inside her slowed. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "Lyra," he said softly, "look at me." She turned her head slightly. "I didn't survive because of power," he said. "I survived because someone chose kindness." Silence fell again, deeper this time. The command ship above prepared its final system, energy gathering for a planetary purge. The commander spoke one last time. "This system will reset everything," he said, "including you." Lyra looked up. Then she looked at Ethan, and in that moment, she made her choice. The energy around her shifted, no longer wild, no longer destructive, but controlled, focused. She raised her hand slowly, but instead of releasing destruction, she pulled the energy inward, sealing it, containing it, stopping the storm completely. The ground stopped shaking. The light faded and silence returned. The commander paused. "Confused, what have you done?" he said. Lyra answered calmly. "I chose differently." The command ship fired its system anyway. A massive beam of energy began descending toward the prison world, ready to erase everything. Panic spread among the prisoners. But Lyra stepped forward. "No more." she said quietly. She lifted her hand toward the sky, and for the first time, she did not attack, she shielded. A massive energy barrier formed above the prison, stopping the beam emitter, holding it back with pure will and strength. The sky lit up like a second sun. Ethan watched in shock. "You're holding it," he whispered. Lyra's voice was calm but strained. "Not for long," she said. The barrier cracked slightly under the pressure. But instead of pushing harder, Lyra changed the flow, redirecting the energy instead of resisting it. Slowly, carefully, she pushed it away from the prison, sending it back into space, harmless, fading into the void. The command ship flickered, its system failing. The commander's image broke apart, his final expression unreadable. Then everything went silent. The sky cleared. The threat was gone. Lyra lowered her hand slowly, her body weak now, energy completely drained. She staggered slightly, but Ethan caught her before she fell. "You did it," he said softly. Lyra looked at him, tired but peaceful. "I didn't destroy," she said. "I changed it." Around them, prisoners slowly stood up. Unsure, afraid, but alive. No more alarms, no more control. Just silence and survival. Ethan looked around, then back at Lyra. "What now?" he asked quietly. Lyra looked at the horizon, where broken ships floated in the sky. "I don't know," she said honestly. For the first time, she did not have a plan. But she also did not need one, because something had changed. Not just the prison, not just the war, but the future. Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," he said. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, finally letting herself feel it. Not duty, not war, but peace. Far above, the stars slowly returned to normal, as if the galaxy itself was breathing again. And in the silence of a broken world, a human and an alien stood together. Not as prisoner and savior, not as survivor and warrior, but as something new, a beginning. Because sometimes, one choice can change everything. And sometimes, kindness is stronger than any power in the universe.